Hi and welcome to Tennis One. I'm Mark Gellard, and today I'd like to talk to you about a small misconception that I've found that a lot of tennis players have, and that is the movement to and from the ball. And today I want to educate you a little bit on the importance of first step quickness and how you can maximize your speed. One of the things that I have spent the last couple of years doing is really educating myself on the importance of strength and conditioning and movement around the court. Tennis is becoming a sport more and more about athleticism and not just about raw tennis ability or the ability just to hit the ball. Great players like Djokovic, Nadal, Murray, Federer, these are great athletes, and they're using their athleticism in ways that we haven't seen before. And so what I always look for when I'm working with players, whether they're beginners, intermediate or advanced, is how athletic they are on the court, how well they move, how well they react and perceive things, and also making sure that they have good fundamentals of their movement. And this is critical if you're going to be a great player. And today what I'm going to talk to you about is 2 steps that I want to make sure that you guys are using efficiently, and that's called the false step or the drop step or the plyo step. And these 2 steps are used not just in tennis but in all sports. Whether you're a soccer goalie that's looking to save a penalty, whether you're a rugby player that's looking to cut very fast and move out the way of an oncoming player, or even in other sports, you see in the 100-meter sprint, for example, you'll see how players start off in the blocks. They do not start with their feet real close together like this. They start in a position that allows them to get maximum power and speed right out of the blocks. So what I'm going to do today is going to give you a couple of demonstrations of these 2 different types of movement, then give you a simple drill to do that can help you improve this movement, and also give you some videos of some other players and other sports as well as tennis using this movement to generate as much power and force as they can to get to the ball. And that's the important thing about tennis. How fast can you get from the position that you're in to the ball? The quicker you can get there, the better position you're going to be in, the more balanced you're going to be when you're able to hit, and then the faster you're going to be able to recover. So take a look at this video here, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much for watching. Okay, so one of the most important things that a tennis player needs to look for, and this is one of possibly the most important thing that recreational players fail to do, is establishing a wide base. That means having our feet really wide apart. In most clubs that I visited, players stand in the ready position with their feet very narrow, about shoulder width apart. The problem with this is that you're not going to be able to create the necessary forces and get the shin angles that are needed to push off fast. So what I want to do is make sure that every single one of you has got a wide base, and that means having the feet nice and wide. And this is going to give you a nice strong base, but it's also going to allow you to generate the most power when you push. Now if you look at players like Djokovic and Murray, who do this great off their return, you'll notice it really well off their return, how wide their feet are. And that's because that's going to give them the most power. The days of players standing with their feet close are gone. That is no longer the way to start. So before anything that we address today in this video, we need to ensure that you guys have the necessary wide or athletic base that should look like this. Okay, so in the introduction to this video I talked to you about the importance of the first step to the ball, and this is where you can create the most speed, and it's also where the most speed is lost. The efficient and the fast players work very well off the first step. And the biggest problem that I found is that most players want to step out with the foot that is closest to the ball. So for example, I'm right-handed. If I'm going to play a forehand, a lot of players make the mistake of stepping out with the right leg first, in this fashion. If it was for a backhand, obviously I'm left-handed. If it was a backhand, they step out in this direction. This is incorrect, and the videos that I'm going to put together within this video of players like Djokovic, Murray, soccer goalies, rugby and football players, and also Usain Bolt, who uses a similar technique when he's running. The key to doing this is that you have the necessary shin angle, about 45 degrees, and that's going to allow you to push off with the most speed and velocity. And the shin angle is the angle created when we do this. You'll see now that I have a nice 45-degree angle to the ground, and that's why sprinters in the blocks go down into this position. They're actually running further than 100 meters in a 100-meter sprint because they're actually stepping away from where they're going. And what I'm going to do now is explain to you why this is the most important and the most efficient way to get to the ball. So when you're in your athletic base, if you have your wide base and somebody hits a ball wide to your forehand, what you're going to do is use a plyo step. And in a minute, I'm going to have a great junior player here in Florida show you. His name is Niall Clark. He's one of the top players in the state, and he's going to demonstrate to you how to move to a forehand. But just before we do that, I want to break it down for you. What we're going to do is we're going to go into our athletic base. If somebody hits the ball wide to my forehand, whether it's a return or whether I'm in the middle of the court and we're exchanging in a rally, if I have my wide base, my first step will actually be to bring my out or my foot closest to the ball under my body, and then cross over and push with the opposite leg. Now, as I'm standing here in the camera, as I move to my forehand, the last thing that should leave the screen, or the last thing that should move in the direction I want to go in, is the foot closest to the ball. So again, when you'll see it, and I'll slow it down for you in the when we have the junior player demonstrate, but again, as I'm in my athletic base, my wide base, I'm going to move in that direction. The first thing I'm going to do is split. I'm going to bring my leg closest to the ball under me, and then I'm going to push, and the leg that was closest to the ball is still left in the screenshot. And that is really, really important. The same applies on my backhand side. Again, if I'm moving in this direction, I've got my wide base to my backhand, I'm going to split. The first thing that's going to happen is this leg closest to the ball is going to come under my body, and then I'm going to push out, again leaving the leg that was closest to the ball the last thing to move. That should be the last thing that moves. The reason for this is I can generate the most power, and this is the best way. If you watch Nadal in this video and Federer, they all use this step. Now, there is an exception. If I'm already moving in the direction of my forehand, let's say for example I've played a backhand out here, okay, I've played my backhand and I'm already recovering and I'm still moving in the direction of my forehand, then I can just continue with what we call a flow step, and I can just continue moving out in that direction without having to bring my leg under my body to get better angles. Okay, but this, what I'm demonstrating for you here today, is what you would do from a nice athletic position. You've recovered, you've got back into the middle of the court, you've taken your split step, you've got your wide base, and you want to move with power and explosion. This is going to be the way to move. So what you're going to do now is you're going to see Niall Clark demonstrating exactly how this should be done with a live ball situation here, where I'm going to throw him some balls wide and he's going to catch, or I'm going to make him hit the ball.
Okay, so here you can see Niall Clark, and he's demonstrating the plyo step. What I really want you to pay attention to is how the foot that is closest to the ball is actually going to come in under his body, and that's going to improve his shin angle so that he can push off with the maximum power. Watch again here how his outside foot will come in, and then he can push off. And here's a few demonstrations of some professional players. Rafael and Nadal to start. He's going to move out to his backhand, which is his right, and that right foot is now going to drop under his body here, and then that will allow him to push off, and the last thing that's going to leave his be touching the ground still is that foot that was closest to the ball. Same here with Andy Murray. And as always, I like to give you a demonstration from another sport. Watch the soccer goalie who needs the most power. He's going to take the plyo step, and really that's going to give him the most ability to push off with explosion.
Whether you're a recreational player or an aspiring professional player, one of the shots that gives a lot of people trouble is the drop shot, because they do not move to this ball correctly. And if you look at the elite players we've already talked about, they move very, very smart towards the ball. What I'm going to do is show you the best way to move to a drop shot, again from a neutral position. When you're in your wide athletic base position, how you move to the drop shot. And what you're going to do is take something called a false step or a drop step. This has been studied by numerous sports science companies and organizations such as the NSCA, who spend a lot of time investigating whether this is the most efficient way, and it is categorically being shown to be the fastest way to move. And that means that what you're going to do is actually make your first step to the ball is going to be in the opposite direction to the way you want to go. The reason for this is that you are going to once again improve your shin angles and give yourself a better position to push with power and explosion. Now, a lot of coaches are trying to get people to remove this step because they don't like the idea of their athlete moving backwards a step. I understand the idea, but again, science always trumps over opinion, and this has been shown in numerous studies, and there's a reason why the best players in the world do it. Usain Bolt, that I already mentioned, when he goes onto the blocks in his starting position, he does not start like this. he actually takes a step backwards, just like what I'm about to show you now, so that he can get the most appropriate and most efficient shin angle to push off in the direction he wants to go.
Okay, so here we have all the 100-meter professional athletes at the starting blocks, and as I've already mentioned, instead of having both feet up close on the line, they've actually moved back a step, and this is going to be very similar to the position that tennis players get when moving to a drop shot, because this is going to allow them the most speed out of the blocks or to the ball. And again, here is Niall Clark demonstrating, and you'll see that position is very similar to a sprinter out of the blocks. He drops that back foot back and then allows him to push off with maximum speed. Finally, here we see Nadal, and you're going to see him take a split step and run for a drop shot. He's going to split here and then drop step. And that's again going to give him the most amount of speed and power to the ball.
Thanks very much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and keep checking back to Tennis One for more great videos and information. Thanks very much. I'm Mark Geller.